Hi everyone, welcome to the Upstate Gallery at the Chapman Cultural Center. If you have not been to the Chapman Cultural Center yet, it is an amazing resource right here in Spartanburg. All the galleries here are free and there is tons of great artwork for you guys to check out. Chapman Cultural Center is located downtown, right across the street from Papa's Breakfast Nook and Cyclops Cidery and Brewery. Most of the galleries are closed on Mondays, but they are open throughout the week, and on the weekend I would check their website for the most current hours. Something really exciting that's happening here on Thursday is Art Walk. So the third Thursday of every month in Spartanburg is Art Walk. So all the galleries stay open late, so if you have class during the day, you can come check them out during hours when they are normally closed. So Art Walk usually takes place between 5 to 8. Some of the galleries even stay open until 9. If you come to the Chapman Cultural Center, you will notice that there are multiple galleries here, so it is confusing. Sometimes it's easy to get the names of the galleries confused, so if you decide to come here to write about art for your formal analysis for assignment 1, be sure that you know which space you're in, and if you have a question, just ask the attendant at the desk at the front of the West Wing. So this is the Upstate Gallery. It's managed by University of South Carolina at Upstate. Just across the hall is the Artists Guild of Spartanburg Gallery, another great gallery exhibiting professional artists' work in Spartanburg. And then if you walk down the hall that's in between the two galleries, at the end of that hall is Spartanburg Art Museum, and they have a great exhibit up right now as well. If there is art on the halls, like the actual hallways leading to the museum, that artwork is not professional artwork, that's art by local students, and I am asking that you write about art made by a professional artist. So be sure that you are not writing about art that is made by local K through 12 students, as wonderful as it may be. I would love for you to write about art in a professional gallery setting. So all these galleries are free. They'll all be open for Art Walk this Thursday. Other galleries in town that will be open is the Johnson Collection Gallery. So the Johnson Collection Gallery is downtown next to Starbucks. That's a wonderful gallery showcasing mostly Southern artists. And then the Artists Collective of Spartanburg, which is a wonderful artists co-op where local artists can rent studio spaces, and then during Art Walk, they can open their studios for everyone to be able to see their art, so it's really cool. On the west side, the Mayfair Artist Studios will also be open for Art Walk this month. So those are over near the Mayfair Mill, and that's actually managed by Chapman Cultural Center, so that's really cool too. But today, I'm gonna be talking about the work that is here in the Upstate Gallery. So the first thing that I want you guys to check when you choose your piece to write about for your formal analysis is that it is a painting. So I've asked you to talk about not only a two-dimensional work, but a painting. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is check the gallery label on your piece. So I have chosen this lovely and large painting right here. You can see that if I stand near it, it's actually way bigger than I am. So usually the gallery tag that shows what the medium is for the piece is on the side. So I'm gonna go check over here. So what I'm seeing is a number. So there's a number right here. So for this exhibition, they've actually chosen to have the identification of the artworks on a fact sheet that is available at the front of the gallery. So you can see, let's see, fact sheets. So those are available for everyone to take when you come to the gallery. Let's see. Thank you for taking that journey with me. So the number that is next to this painting on the little pin is 1. And I'm gonna look at my fact sheet and I see I have number 1 right here. It's called Estela Tejiendo, and then in parentheses it says Mom's Portrait. And then underneath the title for the piece it says latex paint, caulk, metallic gilding wax, and it's on canvas. So a good indicator that it is a painting is that paint is listed as one of the materials. However, if you go to any of these galleries and talk to a gallerist or talk to the head of the museum, they can guide you through what materials might consist of painting. Common materials would be acrylic on canvas, oil on canvas, watercolor on paper, but it is okay if the artists bring in other materials. Like this artist has used building caulk and gilding wax. Some artists may bring in collage elements, like bits of photos that are cut up and then glued on. I've seen glitter, I've seen rhinestones, I've seen bits of fabric glued. So lots of different things that can go into a painting, but usually paint is involved. So the artist of this work is Yehimi Cambrón. This is actually her solo show that she's having here. It was curated by Dr. Lex Lancaster and hung by Leah Cabanum. Those are both wonderful professors at USC Upstate, and we're lucky to have them. So what I want you guys to do for your formal analysis, this is not a research paper. It is helpful if, for some reason the gallery has something like this that includes an artist statement where you can read a little bit about the artist's intentions. But in a formal analysis, you are sort of forming your own conclusions. So you're not writing a biography of the artist, you're talking about the work itself. So I'm actually gonna set this down for a moment and I'm gonna, check out the painting, see what it is that I'm looking at. The best way to start a formal analysis is just to explain the work to your viewer. So what I see is a monumental scale portrait of a woman, and it's actually, she is the central focus of it. There's nothing in the background, so we have lots of negative space out here. That space is not occupied by anything but color. So a burgundy has been used to create negative space around the central figure of a woman. She is looking sort of off into the distance. She's not making eye contact with you. She's giving a look to someone, off screen. She is knitting something. She's wearing a simple sort of green, blue, maybe even black, just with highlights of color, a dress. She's wearing glasses, and she has a halo around her head. And that halo reminds me of things that I've seen in other paintings. It reminds me of religious iconography where we identify angels and saints with, a gold halo around their head. The halo could also indicate a crown. Sometimes royal figures were portrayed with those halos around their head. So I'm going to say that this woman, just based on the symbolism of that halo, she is either a very wonderful woman that we would describe as a saint for all of her good deeds and all of the things that she's been through and all the things she does for other people, or maybe we're even describing her as a queen because she has this crown. Going back to the title, it's okay to use the title as an indicator for how you analyze your piece, but the title indicates that it is the artist's mother. So maybe this is her way of honoring her mother by making this portrait of her, describing her as not only a saint, but a queen. She is someone of very high importance, that she's being put at the center of this image with no other distractions. She has been painted larger than life because, as you can see, she's much taller than life size. And, it really seems like she's someone of high importance. So something else that I want you guys to think about is, how is this picture being portrayed? Is it representational? Is it abstract? Is it photorealistic? So for something to be representational, it doesn't necessarily need to be photorealistic. I would say, however, that the depiction of her mother is photorealistic. If we get up close to it, you can see those details are very intense. The way that she has described highlights and shadows on her mother's face to make her look like, you know, a real person. It almost looks like a photograph. It's very realistic. However, when we look at this crown, that's not so much realistic, and actually we're getting some really cool texture there. And you can see that that's probably where she's used the caulk and the resin, is to create the texture on that crown. I'm not going to touch it because we don't touch artworks in galleries and museums. They are fragile, but I can see that if I did touch it, it would have texture, whereas the rest of the painting is very smooth. So her skin is depicted as smooth, the dress is depicted as smooth, but this halo around here, it has texture. It looks like the artist has used a stencil to depict it. So we have a photo representational image of her mother, but then she's added this sort of fantasy element, this element of symbolism and iconography. So I want you guys in your pieces, in your writing assignments, to discuss at least 4 formal elements of design. So that one of those could be, you know, the style of the piece. So I've mentioned photorealism. Texture could also be something to discuss. So we could talk about how she's created visual texture by describing the dress of her mother and her mother's skin. We know that her mother, in life, there would be texture to that fabric, there would be texture to her skin, but on the surface of the painting, it's totally smooth. So that texture is a visual texture because it is an illusion. However, this crown that's up here, that is physical texture. That is texture that is tactile. If you touch it, it would have texture, kind of like rubbing your hand on stones, or, you know, in sand. It has texture. It's not smooth like a marble, although smooth can be a texture as well. Another thing, you know, we're talking about the folds of the dress as well as of her skin. That is depicted using value. So value is the depiction of light and shadow, and so the artist has used highlights and shadows to show that the skin, to show that the fabric, to show that her hair, to show that all of that is 3-dimensional. Because we're looking at it on a 2-dimensional plane. She's painted on a piece of canvas, which is basically just a piece of fabric. It does not have 3-dimensional form, but she's given us the illusion that her mother has 3-dimensional form. What else? So we've talked about the style, which is realism. We've talked about texture. We've talked about light and shadow. We can talk about, we've already talked about it a little bit, but negative space and positive space. So that burgundy background is going to be the negative space in the piece, and then her mother is the positive space. You could also talk about transparency. So her mother is wearing glasses. We know that those glasses take up 3-dimensional space, but we can see her eyes through them. So she's done a really good job of depicting transparency. And we could talk about composition. So the composition is the way that a painting or a drawing, or even a 3-dimensional sculpture, the way it's laid out, what's the floor plan for it? So compositionally, she is in the center with kind of equal parts negative space on either side. I would not say that this piece is perfectly symmetrical, but it does have central balance, the way that she is taking up space in the painting. So balance is another thing that you could talk about in your writing assignment. You are not limited to discussing 4 different elements of design, but you need to discuss at least 4, and you need to give me examples of how they're used. So it can't just be, this piece has light and shadow, or this piece has color. The artist used a lot of shapes. So that doesn't actually tell me anything. You're just throwing words out there, and really you're just throwing them away. You're not giving me supporting information there. So just to review, what you want to do is you want to, you know, find the piece that you have a connection with, establish that it's a painting, you're following the instructions of the assignment, and then look for that gallery tag, whether it is, you know, on the wall directly next to it, or whether there's a reference number to reference it somewhere else. When in doubt, ask, always. But on that gallery tag, you should find the artist's name and the materials. And you will often also find the date or dates within which it was made, but not always. So that's a really good place to start. But then just start describing it to me. What are you seeing? And then how are those elements of design being used? If there is an artist statement, that is a great place to pull from, but you don't need to go out of your way to look up the artist's intentions online. So I did see in this artist statement that she is interested in portraying immigrants in sort of a lifted up manner. She wants to spotlight them. She wants to elevate them to a higher status. So she's certainly doing that here in this portrait of her mother, where she's depicting her as a saint and to me almost a queen. I feel like she's pulling from art history, but she's making a new art history and a new history, by portraying these Americans in an elevated light, shining spotlight on them, showing what their struggles are, what their triumphs are, and even though she's depicted as a saint, as a queen, she's still humble. She is knitting. She's still at work, but she knows that she is doing good in the world. So I really have a connection to this painting because I love my mom, and so I can really feel the love that the artist put into this to honor her mother. So it's good in your analysis to sort of close with your own impressions. It's good to pull from what the artist put in their statement, but I also want to hear from you, what is your impression of the piece? What kind of impression do you leave with? Do you leave feeling sort of filled with joy? Does it make you feel empty or sad? Do the colors bring about a certain mood? But I really hope you guys enjoy this assignment. I hope that it's a wonderful opportunity for you to go look at some art in person. I hope that you look at more than one piece and that you take the time to walk around the gallery and see the different pieces. I do encourage you to come out for Art Walk just because it's a great opportunity. But if for some reason you can't come out this Thursday, there's plenty of other opportunities to view art in town. I know that the Spartanburg Public Library usually has a great exhibit up, and that's one that you could view probably in more expanded hours. And if you're joining us from a city other than Spartanburg, feel free to go look at art in whatever museum or gallery is close to you. If you have questions about that, feel free to email me. But I hope this was helpful for you, and thank you for joining me for my analysis of this wonderful painting. Have a great day.